Hey guys, I'm James Martin Jr. I'm sitting with my dad, James A. Martin Sr. We're in Shelby, North Carolina, the home and where they live and actually where I grew up at. So we're starting to chronicle my parents' lives, and right now we're starting with my dad. So I guess we'll call it maybe the Martin Chronicles, and that may change later on. But anyway, I'm gonna sit back now, and let him tell you about his life, and we're gonna start right with his date of birth and his family, and move forward from there. Thanks. Hope you enjoy.
All right, I'm James A. Martin Sr. I was born to parents of Maggie Ray and Marion Martin in Cleveland County on the westbound lane of 74 going toward Helensburg. Just before you get to Sandy Run Creek, about 40 yards where the highway actually is now, there was a house. That's where I was born. September the 20th, 1933. My mother was my daddy's fourth wife, and all of my brothers and sisters before me passed on, and I'm the lucky one. I made it. And my dad and mom used to work for Mr. and Mrs. W. Daniel, and Miss W named me Toad. That gave me that nickname, and because when I was a baby, where most babies crawled, I hopped. So and that name stuck. I've had it all my life, and there are people that didn't really know my name was James, will call me Toad all the time, and they still do.
Speaking of names, do you know where your middle name, Avrose, is spelled A-V-R-O-S-E? Do you know where that came from?
No, I don't.
Okay.
The boy before me, James Albert, died of pneumonia at an early age, and then when I was born, they named me James Avrose, so they were determined to have somebody with an A in their name, and middle name.
Okay.
So
All right.
I don't know where it came from.
So where did you grow up most of your life?
I grew up mostly, I would say about half and half. I grew up, I say a third of it, and down in Shelby. My mother and daddy separated when I was real small, and my mom lived in a house over in Shelby at the corner of Steeple Street and Morgan Street. There's a nursing home right to the left of where I grew, right northwest of where I grew up. And that old house is still standing there. And then we used to have a little group of little boys about the same age, and we didn't have a whole lot of toys to play with. I remember we would get us a sack and go down to the branch right down below Morgan Street, and we would get in that branch and catch those minnows and put them in a barrel and put water in there. And sometimes the big boys would come along and turn a barrel over and kill a fish. All we could do, we were small, so all we could do was just cry. But that was what we done. We made a wagon one time and put some big iron wheels on it, and I have a scar on my right thigh right now, right above the knee, where that one of those wheels, lost control of the wagon, and one of those wheels got me on the leg, and boy, mama really tore me up. I never forget that. She whooped me all over the house. I go under the bed, I had to come out. It get too hot under there, and everything I went under, she I didn't do that anymore.
So you went from Shelby, you went back to Mouldsboro?
All right, we moved over on Flat Rock. Over on Flat Rock, I believe it's on Antrim Street. That was old cement block apartment house. We lived in one of those apartment houses, and I didn't know what was happening. So one day, my daddy came by, and Mama told me that I was going to go and stay with him. So he and his fifth wife, Miss Olabelle Boykin Martin, were in the car, and it had a cooter shell. So he opened that cooter shell, and I hopped in there.
So what kind of car is that?
I think it was old Buick, Chevrolet Warren.
So what's the cooter shell?
It had a cooter shell in it, a thing where what we have a trunk on most cars. It was a cooter shell where you could open it up and had a seat in it.
Oh, okay.
You could sit in that seat. So I rode back to Mouldsboro with them.
So this has been probably in the late 40s?
It was in the late
late 30s.
In the late 30s.
Okay.
You see, because I hadn't started the school.
Okay.
And we moved on man John Bridges' place, which is well, now there's a street cut down through there with Shady Lane that at that particular time blacks only lived on it, and down at the end of the road going toward Mitchell Hill, old man Hatcher Green lived in there.
Okay.
And and Daddy built a house down on old man Bob
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
And,
if you think about it later, come back to it.
And he built that house. Bob Moore was his name, Bob Moore. And we lived down there, and I started the school while we were down there. We had to walk. I guess it's about a mile, I guess, to Mouldsboro School behind Young's Chapel, AME Zion Church. There's a little long building there. It had 2 rooms in it, and in the middle they had a partition. And when they had plays and things like that, they could raise the partition. And one room became a sitting room. Made auditorium out of it that way. And of course, I went to Mrs. McDilla Carson, and Mr. Thurman Pass taught there. I can remember Mr. Pass had a big green Buick with a wheel on each side of the motor.
Okay.
And he left. He left there, and well, I don't know what school he was transferred to, but Mr. Robert Dixon took his place.
So how many kids were actually in school with you, a rough number, approximate number?
I imagine there were about 20-something kids, I imagine.
And what's the furthest distance one probably had to walk to get there?
Well,
that you would think?
I guess about 5 or 6 blocks.
Okay. All right.
Give or take a little bit. Some it might have been farther.
So what school did you go to after you left that school?
Well, after I left the Mouldsboro school, they consolidated the schools. Lattimore and Green Bethel and Eskers Grove went to Green Bethel, and across the river what over there at the school over there is considered that. I didn't realize that until after I got grown and was teaching. They call that's Mooresboro Route something over across the river now, and all those children came over.
Okay.
So
And you guys remind you that these schools were this is of course schools were segregated, so these are all black schools.
These are all black schools.
Can you name the other schools
And Lattimore
in the area?
And Lattimore had two houses right north of Lattimore, and that was their school.
Okay.
Would you?
Can you name the other schools in the area again, like Douglas and Camp?
Okay. Well, when they Douglas didn't come into play with until desegregation. They had Douglas.
Well, do the ones before this segregation. I mean, while schools are still segregated.
Yeah, these schools, these were really high schools.
Okay.
But they had had elementary kids too.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of elementary schools that Mooresboro, Lattimore, Eskers Grove, and Ramseur. These were just little schools with small children in them.
Well, what about the high schools?
All right, now we had high schools at that particular time too. So it came to be when they consolidated the whole county, the children in Mooresboro, Lattimore, Eskers Grove, and went to Green Bethel, and the other schools did the same thing.
Now, Green Bethel, for you guys, let you know, that's located in Boiling Springs, right behind Green Bethel Baptist Church, down the road from Gardner Webb, and the Ingles grocery store there, I guess considered downtown Boiling Springs, is right there in that same block with the school. Go ahead, Dad.
All right.
Tell where those schools are located.
Well, you find that I think the important thing, you had two Negroes who provided land for the school. Green Bethel's land was provided by J.Y. Green, and Camp High down at South, what became South Cleveland, it was given by Mr. Jim Camp, and these two men were talked about in the halls of Congress.
Okay, and what's the location of camp again?
And camp was in
the Shoal Creek, I think.
Shoal Creek.
Yes.
Shoal Creek is where Camp High School is located.
That's off of 18 South.
Yeah. Right, it's not too far from 18, and
And what the other schools? The other schools.
All right, the other schools, you had Washington.
That's in Waco.
Waco. You had Douglas and Lawndale. You had Davidson in Kings Mountain. You had Compact. Well, you might as well say it was in kind of South King Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And
and what school is actually located in the Shelby city limits?
Well, Shelby called Cleveland High.
Yes.
Cleveland High was the only, at one time, was the only school that the blacks had in Shelby. And then they built a school over on Pinckney Street. I can't think of the name of it.
So tell them about, I know this had nothing to do with your history, because these guys came behind you, but they were younger than you. But tell about a couple of the professional athletes who came out of Cleveland School by itself.
Well, we have had
The couple of NFL players.
Bobby Bell. The high school the only football team and the only gymnasium that blacks had was at Cleveland High School.
Okay. So.
All right, Cleveland played their basketball game on Monday night.
Uh-huh.
They did that because no other school had a gymnasium, so the other schools in the county could play at Cleveland School on Saturday night.
Okay.
So that gave people somewhere to go as for entertainment.
Yes.
And kids today would be surprised to know that there was nowhere to take a bath and nowhere to drive. So if you were going to play basketball that night, when you dressed before you left home.
Gotcha.
And because when you pull off your clothes in the gym to start the game, you pile them up over there where you were sitting.
Okay.
So, Can you tell them about the athletes, though? Just name a few of the athletes that came out of there and make the NFL.
All right, athletes. We had a lot of good athletes at all of these schools. But at Cleveland High, I was fortunate. They had Bobby Bell, who went to Minnesota. They tried to get him in one of the schools in North Carolina, but they couldn't. But he went to Minnesota, made All-American, and played with the Kansas City Chiefs. He has a Super Bowl ring too.
Oh yeah, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame here at Shelby City Park.
Uh-huh.
And they have another park here for the blacks, Holly Park, which was when Mr. Palmer was living. He ran the city park, and it was it really flourished during this particular time, because people came from all over North Carolina. You'd be surprised in South Carolina, there'd be thousands of people out there at Holly Park and having a good time. And I never, in my whole career, I never saw anyone who was trying to fight or do anything, say anything out of the way to anybody during that particular time. And that times have really changed.
So did Mel Phillips also attend Cleveland High School?
Mel Phillips went to A&T. He was an outstanding running back, and the 49ers picked him, and they changed, and he became center.
Safety, maybe? Safety or cornerback?
Safety.
Safety, okay.
Safety. He played safety.
Any others come out of here that make the
we had Tommy London, played with Cleveland Brown.
Okay, so he came out of Cleveland High also?
Yeah, he came from Cleveland Brown. These were three pro athletes in Shelby. Cleveland County, even today, is loaded with athletes.
Oh yeah,
and
always. Every